So the age-old question, what do I do with rust? Particularly rust on my frame. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, how many times I've had to deal with that. There's two popular products for it, and we're going to go ahead and use both of them on this frame. I'll show you what I did to prep it, to show you the application of it. I'll talk about the pros and cons of each and some of my experience with it. And then I'm also going to show you another option for rusted parts that you may not be aware of, something that works really well. So that'll be kind of a bonus we'll throw in here, and we can show you that too. So if you're looking to get rid of some rust, or you have a project like this that you're working on, this is going to be the video for you. So stay tuned. Today is the day I finally get to get started on the chassis on this F-350 project. This is an 87 F-350 dump truck chassis. I'm doing like a driver quality restoration on this entire truck. And I picked this weekend to get started on the frame. So we're going to get this frame prepped for two different types of rust treatment. We're going to be using POR15, which is a paint over rust, widely known and used in this type of application here. And then we're also going to be looking at Ospho, which is also another popular rust treatment. Main reason why we're going to use both is I'm a little undecided which to use. I've used POR15 quite a bit, and I've had good results with it, so I'm good with that. The Ospho I've used also, but not on something like this, with this much rust and this bad, this much pitting. I got a lot of traffic today. So yeah, so we're gonna do Ospho on one side, and we're gonna do POR15 on the other side, and kind of see the difference between each, and decide. And we're only gonna do the front half. I'm waiting for these cars to go by. There's just so much traffic this morning. I don't get it. We're going to do the front half, and then whatever I prefer between those two, I'll do the back half with it on another time. I got a lot of work to do, a lot of prep work, and if there's one thing I know with these rust treatment products, the prep work is really where it's at. I think POR15 sometimes, it's a love it or hate it type of product, at least from what I've read and seen. I've had good luck with it, and I think it's the prep work that makes the difference. So first thing we're gonna do is get everything off here. I gotta get these shocks off. All brake lines are coming off. All lines are gonna come off. I gotta take the gas tank off. I gotta get the plow mount off. I'm probably gonna take some of there's some supports that were pressed on or riveted onto this frame when they converted it to a dump truck. At least I'd imagine that's when they did that. They're just supports that go on sandwich on top of the frame and the bottom of the frame, but they've gotten some rust in between them, so I want to take those off, clean that up, and whatever else I want to get off of this, I'm going to get all of it off. Then we're going to degrease it, pressure wash it. We'll let it dry good. Then we'll wire wheel everything, prep as much as we can, and then we'll assess from there. If there's a couple spots I have to fix, I may do that before I treat it, or I may just treat it and then spot repair and then treat over that again at another time. But kind of see where we're at and change gears if we need to. So for now, we're going to strip it. So tools we're looking at for this project here. I think the go-to tool I'm going to be using the most is a wire brush. Got a couple different kind. These are pretty heavy ones. I have a couple that are a little bit softer, less aggressive, but these are going to be the go-to. This needle tool is also going to be used quite a bit on this, I think. This helps you get into some of those spots, this descaler tool. And then just a couple more different sizes. These work pretty good, mostly for paint, but I may end up using this on some of the flat spots. And that's about it. I do have a grinding disc as well, just for some of the flat spots, maybe some of the heavy areas first. I'll hit with this to loosen up some big chunks. And that's about it. I have a sandblaster that I might end up using for some of the small spots that you have to kind of get into. But I don't really want to use the sandblaster too much. It takes a long time. It's good, but it just, I don't know. This is my weapon of choice when you're going up against something like this, I think. Just a good old wire wheel, nice aggressive one. It does a real good job. And that's it. So let's get to it here. So here's those support straps I was talking about. We're just using a torch here to burn the rivets off, and then an air hammer to just pop the rivets through. And then we're just gonna go to town, you know, just start hitting this with the wire wheel and getting all the heavy stuff off. Dusty, dirty job. We got it all cleaned up. Here's a quick look at it. This side looks much better than the other side, but we're going to degrease one more time and then give it a good wash, clean it up real good, get it in the garage and start getting some coating on there. Okay, so real quick on our products that we're going to be using. This is our POR15. You can get this in quarts and then the pints. I don't think they sell it in a gallon. They might. I've never bought a gallon. I've used quarts. And I like this. They call it a 6-pack. I like this because when you open these cans, two reasons. Once you open these cans, they are tough to reseal and then reopen. The stuff dries and cures so hard on there, it gets tough to reopen these cans. You can do it. You could put a plastic bag over it. That helps. But that makes it nice to have these small ones. The other reason I like this is if you ever contaminate, if you get a contaminant in here, you can ruin this whole pint. So if you're doing that with a quart, you know, you could end up ruining a lot of material. It is always recommended to transfer this over into something, and I usually do that as well. But it's just nice having these. And if you wanted to do like what we're going to do today, this will work really nice. I'll probably paint right out of the can for what we're doing today. But good stuff. Paint directly over rust. Thin coats and prep work is essential. They do recommend this metal prep for it. I've used this and I've also not used it, and I've had good results both times. I feel like if you're going to get some bare metal spots, you definitely want to use this. If it's almost all rust, you could probably skip this, but this is recommended, and I have used it. You apply this, you keep it wet. After about 30 minutes or so, you rinse it off, dry the piece thoroughly. This needs to be, before you apply this, it needs to be super dry, absolutely 100% dry. Then you're just going to put this on in thin coats. The tendency is to want to puddle this up, and you think it wants to be heavy on there, but you really want to go light with this. Light coats, and it goes a long way. This really goes a long way. So that's the POR15. The Ospho phosphoric acid. This is the phosphoric acid one, right? I believe it's an acid. Yeah, phosphoric acid. There's different variations of this, all different kinds. This is Skyco's brand. Imagine their recipe is similar to others. You can kind of just get phosphoric acid right at a home improvement store. I don't know that it's the same. It probably isn't the same. There's probably different things in this to help. I think there's probably like wetting agents or something in this that might, you know, keep it the application a little bit different. I don't know. But if you want to go ahead and buy phosphoric acid from Home Depot or Lowe's, you know, I've heard that works. I've used it on tools, I think, for removing rust, but I've never used it on a paint application. So whenever I'm painting anything, I tend to lean towards painting materials rather than go that route, just because paint's expensive, and if I'm going to be putting paint on it, I want it to be good. I don't want to have to redo it. So but this is good stuff. I have used this. You know, I mentioned before I've used this, but I have not used it on something as bad as this, or something that I want to protect as much as this. So I'm curious to see how this works. This is also applied thin. They recommend 2 coats if it's heavy rust, so I definitely think we have heavy rust, so I'm going to be doing 2 coats of this. The only thing I don't know is the recoat time. So I may call them and ask that, but you know, they give you an etching time. But anyway, I'm rambling on here with this. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna do the Ospho first on the left side, the driver's side, and then once this is dry, we're gonna come back and do the POR15 on the right side, passenger side, and that's it. We'll see how we make out. So one other thing about these with this application, both of these need a top coat. If POR15 needs a top coat if you're going to expose this to sunlight. This is not UV protectant. And I have done that before and it definitely fails. So if you're going to have this exposed, you definitely want to top coat it. This needs to be top coated. This is not a paint. Just a rust converter, needs top coat on top of it. Part of this process for this to work needs a top coat. And like I said, on the chassis, you could probably get away with this without top coating, but I'm going to top coat it. I'm going to do top coat both of these probably with just a black enamel, like a semi-gloss or like a chassis paint. All right, so we're just going to we're going to get started here. We're just going to brush this on, trying to avoid any major pooling. This is very low viscosity, very runny. And it is pretty potent stuff. So if you're using it in a ventilated area, you're probably okay, but if not, you definitely want to wear a respirator. I may spray it around some of these areas. I may come back and spray it. The problem with spraying it is you get a lot of pooling. And if you get pooling with this, puddles, whatnot, it's not going to dry. It's going to cause you some adhesion problems later. So you want to apply it pretty thin. The tendency, like I mentioned with the POR15, a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with rust, the tendency is to want to just fill it. You want to fill it in. You know, you want to cut off the oxygen supply to it, literally, to stop it from rusting. But the problem with that is the application, the material is meant to be put on thin, so. Okay, so our first coat is done. You know, nothing special here, it just looks wet. You can start to see where it's doing some of its stuff here in different spots. This rust, as it's converting, should get dark and turn black. So I'm definitely going to need more coats after this dries. Okay, so this is after just overnight, the first coat. This white residue on here is normal after it starts to cure. Generally think it's some of the heavier spots, but you can see the brown rust still there in spots, and that's what you don't want. You want to make sure that's covered and turned dark, a lot like this top section is here. So I definitely have to get another coat on it. You can see some of this. I didn't really hit that very good, that spot. But moving down through here, this all looks pretty good. But I'm going to hit it all with a second coat. I definitely have to get in there some more. Wherever you see the brown rust still remaining, you want to hit again. It all should be dark. This isn't too bad, this heavy pitted area, but I'm going to give that another coat also. So while that other side's drying, we're going to go ahead and work on the driver's side to get it ready for the POR15. We're just going to use this metal prep. This just brushes on the same as the Ospho. Just going to go light coats. They say put this on, leave it wet, keep it wet rather, for about 20-30 minutes, and then just clean it off really good with water. So we're just going to go over it, keep it nice and wet. You can use a spray bottle. I don't know, I opted to use the brush. And we're just keeping it wet, and then we're going to wash it off. And then that'll dry. Once that's dry, you can apply your POR15 over that. We got our metal prep done on this side that we're going to apply the POR15. Looking good. You know, I don't know, it looks kind of the same as the Ospho. It's phosphoric acid and I think zinc phosphate in the POR15 metal prep. So it's got a base material the same as the Ospho, or base component, I guess. But it looks fine. So we're going to go ahead and get the POR15 on there and see how it turns out. So the POR15, this stuff, do not want to get this on your hands, so I'm going to use gloves for sure. Hands or clothing, anything, whatever you get this on, it does not come off. No matter how fast you are, it's nasty. The other thing with this is you're really not supposed to shake it, just stir it. You don't want to create any air bubbles. Air bubbles and like little air pockets for this is a failure point. You want to make sure that you don't induce any extra bubbles or anything into it. We're going to dump into the cup. So we'll stir this up, dump it in, and we'll get applying. So we're just working this in, applying it just like any other paint, really. The only takeaway, I think, is just to make sure you're taking your time. Oop, Trixie, no, baby. Do not want the dog on this. You don't want to put it on too heavy. Good thin coats. Avoid air pockets or air bubbles, I guess. And any like major puddling or pooling. Normal stuff, really. So we'll do 2 coats, I believe. You can almost see the little air bubbles popping up on this when I brush it. That's why the second coat's going to be really important. You don't want any air bubbles. So we got our frame drying, and I figured this was a good time to move over to our electrolysis tank. So this is the other method I mentioned as a good option for removing rust. And this is really good with small parts, you know, oddball things that are kind of hard to get into, crevices and things like that. I won't go into a lot of detail on how to set up an electrolysis tank, but if it's something you haven't heard of, I would definitely recommend checking it out. If it's something that you've thought about doing, I would also recommend doing that. It's really good. I like it because it's a set it and forget it type thing. You leave it in here for a few hours and, you know, come back to it and the rust is virtually all gone. Sometimes it needs a little bit of work, but really good option. And I'll show you how this frame support turned out. This is pretty rusty, and it did really good. I think I had it in for about 6-7 hours, something like that, and it came out pretty good. So we'll just kick to the end of that and then show you how it is, and well, we'll move on. Okay, update on our electrolysis operation here. Get the battery charger off, disconnect that, and do our clamp. We just had that clamped on there, and let's see what we got here. Ooh, looks pretty good. A lot of this just flakes right off. So that is pretty dang good. Oh yeah. So it turned out better than I thought with a part that was this bad. But not bad at all. I'm happy with that. Let's look at the bottom, because this is really what I was worried about. That's really good. Yeah, see how that rust just pulls right off of there. So we'll rinse this off, like right in these spots here where it's tough to get with any kind of that's really what it's good for. You'll still have the pitting left, but most of the rust will be gone. And then you can treat this, put your paint of choice on there, or treatment, depending on how bad it is. I'm probably going to put the Rust Encapsulator Plus on here, Eastwood's. But this was about 8 hours, something like that. I'm gonna do one of the smaller parts now, and then we'll go from there. But real good option, especially for the hard to get areas. You can see the difference here. I don't even know if I'm gonna dunk this side or just wire wheel this off, but you can see that rust just comes right off of there. Pretty good stuff. So there you go. All right, so we got POR15 on, 2 coats, came out pretty good. We are, now we're just scuffing this. It's completely dry, about 2-3 days, something like that. And we're just gonna scuff it for the top coat. So we're going over it, we're gonna rinse it off after this. Just making sure we get a good scuff so we get a nice mechanical tooth for the top coat. And then on the Ospho side, we're just giving this a real light brush just to get that white residue off. We're just kind of lightly going over this, and then we're going to wipe it down with the solvent and get it ready for the enamel. So going with the Rust-Oleum low gloss black, just enamel paint, basic stuff. You know, it's a good affordable option. There's other things you can use out there, but I thought this was a good choice for what I'm doing. We're just going to go ahead and get this ready, thinned up, get it sprayable, and go ahead and spray it. So here's the finished product. I'm happy with how it's turned out. Not too bad. There's still a lot of the pitting there, but you know, the main goal here was to get it protective coating on there. You know, this is not a show truck by any means. The axle, the front axle is coming off, so I didn't bother doing any of the steering knuckle or anything like that. That is going to come off. And then the driver's side turned out quite a bit better, just because it was in better shape. But that's it. You know, you can't really see a difference on either side, you know, in terms of the application with the Ospho and then the POR15. You know, and they both look like the same. Really don't see any difference. I didn't expect that I would. You know, the only difference I think is going to come down to the application and preference. So that's a wrap on our chassis project here with the POR15 and Ospho. Between these two products, I thought they both work really well. I don't see a big difference between either of them. You know, you're down the road driving the truck on the salty roads and through a winter, it may shine some light on which one's better. But in terms of just for the application, you know, the POR15, you did have the extra step with the metal prep. The Ospho is probably a little bit easier. You know, I would lean towards the Ospho, I think, if I were doing this again. Although I do have good luck with the POR15. So, you know, like I said, I don't think you can go wrong with either of these as an option. Time will tell. And you know, if I still have this truck a year from now and I go through a winter, you know, I could do a follow-up video if I see a difference. We'll see how that works out. But thanks for checking out the video. And let me know in the comments if you've used either of these and you had good luck. I'd like to know what, the dog is going crazy today. I'd like to know what you guys think, and if you had good luck with these, you know. But yeah, that's it. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing that, and hit that like button. Thank you.